I wonder whether or not you have found a new normal yet. I wonder what things for you are now a cause for celebration which wouldn't have even registered as significant a few weeks ago. In our household, there was great celebration this week when we secured an online shopping delivery slot. Leaving the house once a day to walk around the block now feels like a treat. And it's a joy to talk to neighbours over the fence because it's face-to-face contact with people outside my immediate household. I hope that you are able to notice things in your own life, which are the blessings arising from this season. I would encourage you to continue to cultivate that attitude of gratitude, to add to your post-it wall of blessings, to take time to pause and say thank you as you become aware of God's goodness and his provision in the everyday things of life. It's been really encouraging for me to observe the ways that our country is pulling together, seeing ordinary people being extraordinary in the ways that they're caring for others. It's a very British response to a crisis. I was reading an article about how communities respond to trauma, and this first phase, it's called the heroic phase, is typical. People in this phase are full of energy and self-sacrifice. But often this energy will burn out, and a new phase will emerge, marked out by disillusionment. We might expect in this phase people to be looking to apportion blame and becoming suspicious of others and those in authority. I don't know whether that will happen for our nation or in our community, but try not to be too surprised if it does come. But the good news is that disillusionment will eventually lose its force and make way for a hope-filled rebuilding of what has been lost through this crisis and a consolidation of all that has been gained. There's a need for all of us, but especially those who hold tightly to our Christian faith, to be people who can be present in the moment, but also point to others to a hope-filled future. The great Christian writer C.S. Lewis talks about there being 4 categories of time: the past, the present, the future, and eternity. Lewis cautions us not to focus on the past or on the future, but to live in the present with the hope of eternity planted in our hearts. The future may well seem like an unsettling, perhaps even a scary concept for you at the moment. And if that's the case, can I encourage you to spend some time reminding yourself, or perhaps discovering for the first time, about the truth of eternity? The Bible paints us a picture of what eternity will be like. It describes it as a place where there is no more crying or pain or sickness, no more brokenness, injustice or violence, a place where God will be truly and completely with his people. The future is uncertain, but we can be confident about what eternity is going to be like. Perhaps if you're tempted to despair over all that's happening in our world and you like to do something practical and a little bit creative, I invite you to take a piece of paper like this one and write down on it all the things that cause you to feel anxious or angry, the big things and the small things. And when you can't think of anything more to add, maybe you've filled your piece of paper completely. Take the thickest pen that you can find at home, and over these words that you've written on the sheet, write in big letters, one day, no more. There is a day that is coming where all of those things will be wiped away and eternity will begin. As Christians, we're called to be rooted in the present moment, but with our eyes fixed on the finish line of eternity. In 1968, the Olympic Games took place in Mexico City, and one of the runners in the marathon was a Tanzanian called John Akawi. Akawi was halfway through the grueling race when he fell and badly injured his knee and his shoulder. He was in incredible pain, but Akawi persevered and somehow managed to complete the remaining 13 miles. When he finally crossed the finish line, the sun had set and there were just a few people left in the stadium. When interviewed later and asked why he continued running, he said, "My country did not send me 5,000 miles to start the race. They sent me 5,000 miles to finish the race." Brothers and sisters, we have a race to finish. In the short term, our race is about living well through this season of isolation, of continuing to follow Christ, whatever the future holds. But the bigger race that we've been called to run takes us all the way into eternity. In the Bible, the writer to the Hebrews reminds us, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." Friends, let's keep praying for one another, that we might have the perseverance that we need to continue running this race, taking our example from Jesus, who has finished his race, who has sat down with his Father in eternity. And let's continue to be people of faith in this time of fear, because we can be sure that one day, no more.